Live from America's heartland, this is the Daily Truth Report with your host, Noah Christopher.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Truth Report. And I have back with us today the incomparable Jovan Pulitzer. Jovan, it's so good to have you. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, it is always such a treat to get to talk to you. And like I said before we went live, and unfortunately, it seems to be always under bad circumstances because whenever something big happens, I think the last time we talked was Butler, PA. There's no one better to go to than you for financial or forensic breakdown and analysis and just common sense analysis. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to talk through. There's so much happening with this Charlie Kirk thing. Maybe some things real, some things not. Right. We want to talk about that. We want to talk about Arizona. Obviously, you really burst onto the political scene with the Arizona audit and all of that stuff. And there's a lot happening there that actually might be tied into this. So we'll talk about that on the second half today. But we're live. It's Saturday afternoon. I know people are busy and out, but we are live on Twitter, on X. We're live on Rumble, and we're live on YouTube. So if you're with us, we'll take questions. We'll make it interactive. Go ahead and drop a comment wherever you're at. Please like and share this so we get it out to more people. And that helps more people see this because it's not every day I get to have Jovan on the show. And I really do appreciate it. I love asking you questions and then you finding out kind of what you're thinking and just having this great discussion. So, well, let's do it. Let's talk about the whole Charlie Kirk situation. It seems to be getting weirder by the day. I mean, just this morning, I saw it going viral on X that all of a sudden this roommate that we keep hearing about is and we're live on YouTube, so I'll say a T-gender. Right. And the first time I saw it, I thought, oh, that can't be. That's just fake news going around X. It's now confirmed. Right. All major news sources have confirmed it. So that's weird. But I have a whole list of notes here, Jovan. Maybe we can just take them one by one. But so many weird things around this. And just to preface this for everybody, and then I'm going to stop talking and let you talk because that's who people want to hear. But just to preface this, there's a lot of people out, not a lot, but there are some camps of people that say, oh, Trump and Butler, PA, that was all staged and he just wanted the sympathy and it was all fake. I've never been of that mindset. I don't think you are either. There's people that say this is all staged. It's all part of the big operation and you're going to see what happens. And all these people were arrested back in 2020 and now they're replaced by clones and bots and whatever else. I'm not going there either. But at the same time, there are things that we look at and we can see with our eyes and just use our common sense. And we can say, this doesn't look right. What you're telling us is not connecting.
I do want to make, from the last time we talked, my earlobe has changed. And so don't shoot this side of me.
Yes.
Be very careful because my earlobe's different.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, let's just take in no particular order. You were one of the first people I saw post about this, and maybe I'll get a screen share going here in just a minute. But you caught this. I saw a couple other people caught it, and then I went to Amazon and checked it out myself, and I caught some screenshots of it. They've since pretty much scrubbed it all. Right. But let's start here. There were books on Amazon, and Amazon has a little box or a little area where it says published date. There were books about. It says that, it's like the Charlie Kirk assassination, what happened in Utah. And they were published date 9/9, which is one day before he was actually shot. Then there were another whole stream of books published on 9/10. Right. And then which you say, okay, well, they just got it up real quick. They used AI, but you can't list that quickly on Amazon unless you have some sort of inside connection. It's a 48 to 72 hour process at best. So that means they started that 9/7, 9/8
at best.
So here, let me just turn it over to you, Jovan. What in the world is? Because I saw it with my own eyes. That was up there. What do you make of that?
I couldn't believe it when I heard rumor of it that there's the story of the day Charlie Kirk got shot or got killed, and then here is a book. There was both a regular book and then an ebook. Of course, I know a lot about publishing because I publish so many books. And then for it to have a date of publish, which is something that automatically happens, you cannot modify that date. Okay. You can't modify that date. It's something that just happens automatically. But more importantly, it's not the day that the person submitted it to the server. It's the day that Amazon or CreateSpace, in this case, whatever, put it out. It's the day they approve it. So here's how the process goes. When somebody does an ebook or somebody does any type of book on Amazon or using the service, what it does is it goes through Amazon approval first. So they're going to kind of check everything's right, everything's copacetic. You've got an account, the whole bit. The person who is publishing the book sets the pricing or whatever. And then Amazon goes through a review process. Some of the processes they do now is trying to see if it was AI, you now have to disclose it was an AI book, just to make sure it fits the formatting, to make sure it plays on their devices if it's an ebook. I've never, in hundreds of books that we've published, have ever seen Amazon approve anything faster than about 36 to 48 hours. Just never, ever seen it happen.
Yep.
So if we were to backdate this and it's going live with a September 9th date, that means it hit on the 7th at some time, it hit the date. So I'm having a hard time reconciling, how do you actually have a book that's technically published at least 2 days before the event, or put on the server 2 days before that, 3 days, counting the day where it happened? How does that occur? Is it just some weird happenstance that somebody wrote kind of a fictional account? Well, this is where it gets really weird.
Well, five of them, Jovan. I mean, it's not just one, five. Five.
Well, what they've done is they've changed, somebody's replicating this, changing just the images and the sources of the books, but it talks about the actual event, where Charlie was, witness accounts, etc. Yeah. So the question you have to ask is, how did they know? How did they see? So you could think, now AI could conceivably write a book like this. It could. You could literally take an AI agent, you give it the headline, you give it the parameters, and in 5 minutes, it will whip out a book. Mm-hmm. However, that's still not going to beat the date that the event happened. It's still not going to be able to publish that fast or backdate the publish on it. So this is what I have the most questions in all of this about Charlie's assassination. And we lost a great person. We lost a person who would have been one of our vice presidents and certainly would have been one of our future presidents.
Exactly.
Literally, how? Now, this author and the book and all history of it's now been scrubbed. It's been scrubbed all over the place. I don't know if you're showing a new live event and they've gone back up with other ones.
No, this is an article we wrote documenting the screenshots.
Yeah, so they scrubbed it as soon as it broke. I put it out there. A few other people put it out there. Man, it got scrubbed really quick. Now, if we were to look at this from a forensic standpoint, anybody can publish under any name they want. However, to have an account to publish a book, literally, you have to have a verified identity. You have to have a verified company set up that has been approved by Amazon. It means it has a phone number, an address, and a bank account tied to it. I'm hoping, and I had a few back channel discussions with various people, that Kash Patel gets right on this. I would like to know the circumstances behind this book. I want to know who this author is, pseudonym or otherwise. I want to know who it is. I want to know how they came up with it. I want to know what system they used to put it in. You got to ferret out first, was this somehow a quirk in Amazon system? I don't think so. I've got hundreds of books there. I've never seen this happen before at all.
Right.
So I think there's some explaining to do. Luckily, there is a forensic trail to follow.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to figure out what the motive would be here. I mean, you know, there's a forensic trail if you've done this. You know, you're drawing incredible attention to yourself. What, you're going to sell a few books for $9.99? What's the logic behind it?
Well, what I haven't been able to connect yet, I have found there are 2 songs out there, and then there's this book. So even on SoundCloud and some other places, evidently somebody, has published some songs about shooting Charlie Kirk. I haven't found the connective tissue yet, albeit we've been researching a lot of other things as well. But I'm wondering, was there some sort of underground group? Was there some sort of Reddit group? Was there some sort of
Discord server?
Yeah, could it be a Discord where this was the theme, and there was the theme of Charlie Kirk getting killed? We need to kind of backtrack it. Now, it'd be very interesting if, in fact, this fellow who has been arrested for it ends up being part of those groups. I'd like to see that connective tissue. I'd like to see what brought it about. Unfortunately, I don't think this is going to stop at just with Charlie. I think it's going to get worse.
More events, more people. Yeah.
I think it's when somebody, we have to think about a shooter or a high school shooter. We have to think about their motivations in this. Now, I think this literally made a martyr out of Charlie. Charlie is certainly a one of a kind.
Yeah.
Truly one of the only people out there willing to debate, allow you to have your own opinion, and just go through it, try to talk it through, find common ground. But I think now with the media behind it, how much this has gone viral, I'm worried that people that have this kind of psychopathy that can do something like this have various ideologies and lifestyles that they think conflicts with the right or otherwise. I'm worried about how this one, people may think it'll get their name to live on in infamy. That's why I think this is more dangerous than we know at the moment.
Okay. Well, and I published something this week that I think what could be really bad, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, would be another event, a copy, some copycat of sorts, but from the other side. You take out someone, and I'm certainly not calling for this, but someone like an AOC stature or someone like that is the next person. Then you've got a civil war in this country.
Well, I've always thought that deep state, bad guys, evil, whatever it is, wants to draw us into civil war. I am hoping that people keep calm.
Yeah.
Right now, you have to think, what would Charlie do? This wouldn't be a battle cry to take up your arms. This would be a battle cry. We've got to talk more. We've got to get out there more. But yes, it's a double-edged sword here. I think in the extreme crowd on the left, they may try to play a game of, can you top this? Remember, this is different than any other school shooting, because even though it was technically a school shooting, it went around the globe. World leaders talked about this one. Yes. So now there's a new, can you top this game in town, not just to be remembered as the kids that walked into high school with black trench coats and, try to get as many points as they could by killing people. I'm worried that there's going to be a game of can you top this? Then I now worry about the rhetoric. We live in a time where we have more access to information than we've ever had before. We get this literally in real time as it comes across social media. With so many wild theories going out there, people being irresponsible about the wild theories, and everybody being on edge, there is a very strong chance that people that have allowed themselves on the right to stew in hate rather than to get deep immersed in knowledge of how to deal with it, I think statistically there could be a chance that someone who is associated with the right or wants to be associated with the right, this might be enough to push them over. Charlie was one of these universally loved people.
Yeah. He
didn't intimidate people unless the news was talking about him, but he didn't intimidate people, always had a smile, always had the facts, truly, truly a one of kind. We lost something exceptionally unique with Charlie.
Yes.
And I think that's going to hurt so much. We've all gone through these things over the years, and Butler or otherwise. But when I watch the sentiment, I'm seeing people that I've observed online for many, many years are going even a little bit further, that this is just too much. Now, what that would do is that would hand it back to the left. Right now, Charlie's death is not in vain because it's making people on the left realize this is not the left I joined up for. This is not the Democrat Party I want to be associated with. I'd hate to see that yanked away if somebody was to go out there and try to take out, God forbid, somebody on the left as retribution. That would be one of the worst things that could happen to us.
Well, and so how about this? I mean, so what you're describing is, someone on the right or wanting to be on the right goes out and does it, and it's a lone wolf, or they think they're going to get their day of fame or whatever, or they're going to get retribution or justice or whatever. We also know that there is a deep state out there that needs President Trump distracted. They need this country in chaos. They need his agenda not to go forward. So if I worry about that deep state striking and doing all of this and just kicking it off, and then we've got 3 years of just total chaos in this country, and Trump's term runs out.
That's very likely. I would give you an example. I'll call that a cultivated, not a cultured, but a cultivated conservative that they curate. If we were to go back to Butler and we were to look at the kids supposedly doing it on Butler, but then within 2 hours on the scene, the FBI was cleaning the top of the building in the blood, that was totally out of character.
Yeah,
I would not put it past the system to have somebody ready-made, ready-curated, thinking they're going to do this country a service that the deep state uses to make it look like it's somebody on the right doing something. Of course, that person won't survive. They'll execute them right away. Right. But it would give them the rhetoric runway they need to kind of push everybody into civil war. That's why everybody has to realize they want civil war. They want civil war. And it's very simple, folks. The only thing that is saving the United States of America right now from falling like every other republic is our gun ownership. The one thing they need to fall is our guns. Now, they're going to try very hard to get rid of our guns before they create our financial system where we're all slaves to the system and go digital.
Right.
You've got to understand we're at war. We've been at war for a very long time, and we cannot give them what they want. They are looking for a way to trigger this so they can repeal our Second Amendment and get our guns. That's our only saving grace. If we get to that point, it's over, folks, and we cannot let that happen. We have to fight that smart and with knowledge, not what everybody getting online and say, get your guns and get in the streets. That's absolutely wrong and should not be done. We have to be smart about this. And then you have to understand this is a psychological anchor. They're using psychology to push us over the edge. And by the way, that is, sticks and stones, you literally have to kind of stand your ground, but stand your ground not being triggered to do it. Stand your ground, just continue to spread knowledge, exactly what Charlie was doing. That's our weapon we have to do right now.
Yeah, well, the gun grab seems painfully obvious at this point. I don't know how many of these things are, real's not the right word, but how many of these things are fomented or like you said, cultivated and pushed over an edge. But we, at the very same time, the very same day, the very same afternoon of Charlie Kirk getting shot, you have a school shooting in Denver at the exact same time. Then a few days later, you have another shooting, I think in Maryland, school shooting. And then that same day or the day after, the U.S. Naval Academy is on lockdown because some deranged person went in and shot it up. I mean, how many events can you possibly have in 1 week that before you start saying they're just throwing as many as they can until they can push this thing over the edge?
Yeah, if I had to step back and look at it, and we'll go back to the Las Vegas shooting when Trump came in.
Oh, yeah.
In my estimation of looking at it, what they, meaning the system, felt would happen was Hillary would be president, and that would have been the event to basically get rid of, high capacity magazines, rifles, etc., to get our guns registered, the whole bit. They never expected that America would resonate with Trump and people would get off their butt and vote, and Trump got in. but they still had to go through. You don't plan something like that and just stop it. They needed that because they just used it the other way. They turned it into something that Trump had to deal with. When I look at what goes on right now online, especially when I look at the anti-Semitic rhetoric, I look at how many fake stories are out there, and then you understand China has an entire campus that has tens of thousands of trained electronic warriors that do nothing but psychological warfare, then I think it's pretty easy to understand how many different people they work on nonstop. We learned it in Michigan with the Whitmer fake kidnapping, that our own government will do it to us, and we'll have all these guys that are playing a role so they can get 2 or 3 guys convicted so they have a story. And so I do think that they're pushing buttons and pushing buttons fast. And I think that's because they're not 100% that they're going to get the midterms. That's what they want. I think they're kind of arrogant about the midterms. Joaquin Jeffries is saying they're going to win it. If they do win the midterms, then what they're going to do is immediately begin new impeachment against Trump and get it and do it under the emoluments clause. Is going to be very serious. And so right now, I think they're just trying to weaken the system, trying to see what's working, what's pushing America's buttons. But the end result, civil war. And they either want it before the midterms or they're going to try to get it right after the midterms, because technically they're going to try harder this time to take it back. We haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah. You know, that brings up a good question. When I had you on before the election, or maybe it was slightly afterwards, we talked about, and you said, very prophetically looking back now, you said things are going to get worse before they get better. It's going to be a lot better if Trump's in there, but even if he's in there, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And then after we pass a certain point, we will see that, so-called golden age. Now that we're 9 months after the election, or after the inauguration, where do you see us in that process? It feels like we're still dead in the middle of it, but do you see the light at the end of the tunnel, or is it getting worse? Yeah.
No, nothing's changed. And let me tell you why. You're seeing President Trump go on an evolution that I've been harping about for a very long time. And it was the topic of our last meeting face to face, is we got to get rid of these mail-in ballots and stuff.
Yes.
He's finally now to the point that he can really do that. The system is totally against him. If you watch what's going on right now with just the GOP, right, the RNC, where President Trump is saying, get rid of mail-in ballots, they're promoting bank your ballot, which is nothing more than we want mail-in ballots and early voting. So you see that at odds. What I think happened.
Pause for a second, Jovan, because this is so important. There are a lot of people that say bank your ballot and vote early. And I thought that made sense for a long time until you explained it to me. For anybody listening right now, explain why that is the exact opposite thing we should do.
It's the only vote that the system gets to see and calculate in advance. Here's how the rig works. And let's just take Maricopa County as an example. They have 30 days of voting. And so they flood the market with ballots. About 76% of the people use the mail-in ballots. When they come in, people will inherently say, well, they can't count them, so it doesn't matter. Well, see, everything's about words. Here's what you don't understand. When that mail-in ballot comes in October, in this case of Maricopa, we'll just call it October 20th, when that packet comes in, that return envelope, they open the envelope. It's all a ruse. They open the envelope, they take out the ballot, and they send the mail-in security ballot where the person is signed. They say, we got to send this over here for signature verification, which they don't do. But it gave them the excuse to get the ballot out of there. And then they say, to make sure we're ahead and can manage it, they are allowed to scan it in. It's just not allowed to count. Well, here's what that means. When these scanning systems scan in, it knows exactly every single vote there is, 100%. It knows it.
You've given away all the information.
That's right. The technicality of count basically means they just haven't transferred the data card that they scanned it on to election day to let it go to what's officially the count. Now, here's how the rig works with that. If we were to look at Maricopa, we'll call it 28 days of early voting, mail-in voting. They know every vote came in for every person. They hold them back. Then you have election day. People go into the polls. But what votes do they count first? They count election day first. That's the only unknown. That's the only time they don't know truly what the vote is. And so the way the system's rigged is they count those first. And then all of a sudden, right, when they see they may have a problem, they'll say, well, we're having a hard time processing everything. We need extra days, although they've already ran them in. That's what allows them to create additional votes and ballots underneath. So when it finally comes down at the end, they can squeak by and change an election. But the rig is on election day, that's the ones they count in real time that they don't know. The rest they know everything about. The GOP knows this. Every country knows this. So you have to ask yourself, are you too damn lazy to get out there and vote for your country on election day that you have to send it in where you know they're going to know every single vote that's on those ballots? They know it. They have it. You're going to give them that actionable intelligence. I think that's foolish.
Oh, it's just so evil. Such an evil system. What about, let me ask you a devil's advocate question, because I have, ever since you educated me on this, I've been a strong proponent, and I've preached that myself now. But I have had people email me, elderly people, that say, I literally can't leave the house. If you take away mail-in ballots, you're taking away my right to vote. What do we do for those people?
Well, it's just like anything else where you actually, chase a ballot where somebody had a low propensity voter votes it. It has to be with a bona fide excuse, a bona fide age. So you're going to have to, basically be in a hospital or be that you're immobile. Those things are known. They're known in the system. They're known in Medicare. They're known otherwise. It can't just be an open, willy-nilly system that if you want to vote by mail, you can, meaning we can't have no excuse mail-in voting. What I would do as president of the United States is I would literally declare it a national holiday, and where I'd spend my money is setting up shuttle services or certified ways to pick those up.
Yes.
That require a perfect chain of custody and a photo confirmation of the person saying I'm depositing my ballot, where you've got a person with it. You don't know what's in the ballot, but you got a person that you can confirm did it. There's many ways around it where we can still keep it and do it right. You just can't have blanket early and blanket mail-in voting.
Yeah, excellent. All right, well, let me get back to Charlie Kirk, because I've just got, maybe we'll go a little rapid fire on this, because there's so many weird things that I just would love to get your opinion on. Let me go to the first guy they arrested, and I'll share my screen here for anybody that hasn't seen it already. I think most people probably have, but this first guy they arrested, and I'll play it with the audio. We know this wasn't the guy. Everyone thought this was the guy right away. They called him the suspect, and then he wasn't. But the weird thing is he starts shouting, shoot me, shoot me. Let me play it, and then we'll talk about it.
Shoot me! Shoot me! Was that you? We don't know if it's him or not.
Okay, that's enough of that. There's also been rumors that he was at other big events. I have not verified that myself. I don't know if you know, but what's going on with this guy? If you're clearly not the guy, why? Who yells "shoot me"?
Well, maybe it's a case of wannabe suicide by cop. I don't know. How I understand the situation, as I understand, is the information I have is as soon as the shot rang out and people were freaking out, he basically kind of stood up and said, I did it. I shot him. Now, I'm wondering how much time did that delay the system that allowed the real shooter to get away? So what I would be doing if I was, what I would be doing, it was this some sort of, I know it's weird and it says that's a bigger conspiracy here, but if you were to look at Hamas or some of these groups that use suicide bombers, they now would do it two-stage. They'll set off a suicide bomb, They will wait for all of emergency personnel and responders to get there, and then they'll strike again so they can take those out. Well, this is kind of a pump and dump as well. It slows down policing efforts. It slows down search efforts because what you hear is they got him. Somebody admitted they got him. And so that's why he was basically charged with obstruction of justice, because he kind of stopped it for a moment. And I want to know a lot more about his background. Now, we know he is a Democrat. We know he's highly active in the Democrat Party, has been to things. I want to understand some of the connective tissue here. Now, maybe he's just off his rocker. Who knows? Right?
Yeah.
Maybe he had nothing to do with the shooter, but he could have been one of these people who had evil in his heart, hated Charlie Kirk, and go, oh, I can maybe help this guy get away. Who knows? But I think we need to look at him deeply.
Yeah. Maybe just clinically insane too. Who knows?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. That's strange. All right. Let's go to, like I said, rapid fire a few of these. Let's go to the guys behind Charlie who were part of his security team. And I'll play this video too in case people haven't seen it. I think probably they have, but let me just play it really quick. I want to get your thoughts. I think maybe some of this has been debunked, or at least the men have come out and said they've been with him a long time. Yeah, not only just on his security, but friends of his. But
right,
watch this and tell me what these hand signals look very strange. Let me just play both of them. Here's the first one. See the guy in the white doing it with his hat and making it looks like he's trying to tell someone to steal second. Very strange. I don't want to get the shot in there. And then here's number two. Watch the man in black, who also looks strangely familiar to that guy that was at Butler, but I don't think it's the same guy. But let's play this. Here's the guy in black. You see him behind. I mean, that is definitely like a baseball call signal or a shooting signal. All right, let me turn this off. Go ahead, Jovan. What do you think?
First off, let's just look at this from a forensic standpoint. And I call bull crap on this early on, but let me tell you why. First off, the fellow in the white hat's a local pastor friend of Charlie's. That's number one. Number two, we have to sometimes look for the second right answer. He's holding a phone. He's recording the crowd, which means he has one hand tied up, one hand free. They're outside, could be anything. It's the time of year in Utah where you have about, Utah, Montana, Idaho, and all that. We have these weird flies that come out this time of year, biting flies. They're kind of all over the place, right? So we don't know if that could have happened, etc. But let's just look at it from a logistics standpoint, that it was arranged. It was waiting for the right signal to do it. So now let's analyze the scene. First off, the throat that this fellow shot down was a bowl. It's kind of like if you were shooting down the neck of a guitar into the little round place where the sound resonates out of the guitar into the bass part of the guitar. Charlie was setting lower. He was higher. Buildings all around. There wasn't going to be a windage issue. Snipers only have a wind issue when, in fact, they have to adjust their shot when they're in the field, where you've got your caller explaining the winds coming through so you can adjust your second shot, usually with a moving target. Okay, so let's say, let's look at this. Two people right behind Charlie, which you 100% know are going to be on camera.
Yep.
100% know are going to be on camera. And you're planning to take out a VIP. Well, you're an idiot. You're an idiot because you're going to have 1,000 points of evidence showing your people. The heat applied on those people because of if they were giving commands, you're definitely going to get caught. So from an operational standpoint, it's lunacy to think that these guys have a shot caller. Secondly, people are tying that into when Charlie uttered what he said, it was the signal, boom. Who was the sniper watching?
Right.
The shot caller?
The target.
Right? Okay, so let's say, was this an illiterate shot caller? needed a second confirmation. Oh, wait, no, I didn't get the second super secret handshake. I needed the booger pick, the ear tickle, the hat tip, and the arm slap. And if I only got booger pick, ear tickle, hat tip, I'm not going to do it unless I get the arm slap.
Right.
If we were looked at it as a language, as a syntax, they're communicating different things.
Yep.
Right? And so is this a multi-language of visual signs? I think why people say that is because it seems so familiar to baseball. But why does baseball do that? Why did baseball come up with those anyway? Because people are always adjusting their hat, picking their nose, rubbing their ear. That's how baseball tried to cloak it before people got smart to what they were doing. By the way, I'm giving you the secret to put $1 million in my account. Do it now. Anyway, you got to understand. Okay, so let's even look at it. If we just look at it as a language, one guy did one thing, the other guy did something else. Wait, I want you to shoot now, but you got to get the second confirmation. Now let's just take that. Who was the sniper looking at? Who was the sniper watching? Did he watch through his binoculars? See the signal went right to his gun and got it right at the word? No, yep. Not at all. You can't put those pieces together phonetically in an orchestration that would lead to a shot being taken at an exact time. The time between them is too short. It also begets, it would take a lot more people because logically, the only way you could pull it off would be 2 other watchers, 2 other callers. Why? Because somebody has to watch the guy in the white cap. Somebody has to watch the guy with the tattooed arm. Those have to agree. We got both signals go. Then you've got somebody tapping the shooter on the shoulder, take the shot, just like SWAT does. That's the confirm, or in the ear. It takes too many people. And with that, you got witnesses. When that, right, you've got problems. 2 people in that sphere, that close, they're vetted. But even if they were, there is too much camera footage that Secret Service or otherwise would see be right on those people. Those people were questioned almost immediately. That doesn't speak to someone who's trying to get away.
Yeah, perfect.
It just doesn't.
As I said, I think that was largely debunked, and I think you have totally debunked it. So we can put that one to bed. That's
well. Think of the messaging. There was messaging involved. That this kid actually carved on his bullets.
Oh, that's another one. Yes.
Well, he was to send a message.
Right.
And if you look at some of the carvings, like the 1 arrow left and the 3 down, that comes from a very popular game. That's the signal, the code to drop the big bomb. That was the messaging, but that's not what an assassin's going to do. That's not what anybody who prepares for the shot's going to do. Assassin's not going to crawl out on the roof and be seen that easy. Their ingress and egress is not going to be open. Them hauling ass is not going to be running across the building where they're videotaped. It's all the hallmarks of an amateur. Now, somebody say, well, maybe it was an amateur trained. Well, then we get back to Butler, which I do believe was an amateur. What'd they do with him? They killed him. So they're going to have an amateur use a patsy, but this one they're going to let go? No, none of it makes sense.
Well, let me ask you about that because, and I'd really like to get your take on this. So let me just lay out, because I appreciate your opinion more than mine. But as I've been trying to piece this together, here's some of the things that jumped out to me. You know, you've got the strange things that are like we've already talked about. This old guy yelling "shoot me," and then he slowed down the investigation. That's odd. The Amazon books that seem to imply some sort of pre-planning. That's odd.
That's a wild card.
That's a wild. But then as I look at it, you know, I'm looking at it going, you know, there's cameras everywhere in our modern world, certainly on this campus. We somehow only got 2 kind of blurry images of this shooter. And then he did get away for like 36 hours. He totally leaves the whole area. He gets away. That seems odd to me. The only reason we caught him is because the father turned him in. What if the father decided not to do that? Would we still not have him right now? So I look at all of that and I go, my gut starts to go, there's some sort of bigger coordination here, deep state planning. I don't know what you want to call it, but it seemed to me that there's something more going on. But I think you definitely are on kind of just the amateur lone wolf theory. But I'd love to have you break that down.
No, it's fine. To me, look, and I'm still analyzing like anybody else. The wild card is, who is this one guy that claimed he did it? The second wild card is, who is the hippie jumping up and down celebrating? The third wild card is these books and songs published. But let's just set those aside for a moment and look at the evidence we have. The grainy shots of the guy come from people's cell phones, and it's past your zoom ability. It's not a function of what the cameras was. It was a function of the distance, 200 yards. Next, this would be kind of like the Hollywood Bowl, but extended. Charlie was very down low, kind of in a well, in a bowl. This guy was 200 yards away and up top. Nobody from the bottom would technically see him leave, right? So let me give you an example. We have to understand the geospatial nature of where he was and where Charlie was. Witnesses all in a bowl, down with Charlie, okay? Typically, when you're running security, you have what's called 550, 500. You've got your protection detail, right? 5 yards around Charlie.
Okay.
You've got your crowd detail within a space of 50 yards. They're working and monitoring the crowd, and those guys were there.
Yep.
Then you have what's called your 500-yard detail, and your 500-yard detail is back and high, watching everything for a sniper. That was not there, and this is not normally called for an event like that.
Right.
Okay, so let's go to people looking. Everybody to see the shooter would have to look up, right?
Yep.
And he would be such a small speck. It was only by accident he got caught running across that building. But now to say somebody saw him, right? And you're going to get your, born supremacy on, right? You're going to get your born and you're going to go chase him. Well, you're going to run 200 yards through obstacles, through fleeing people uphill. He's already off the back of a building and in a car. He's gone. There's.
Let me ask you this. I don't disagree with any of that. I don't expect any people there to have pulled out their phones and captured him or tried to tackle him. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, gosh, if I go to the grocery store and I forget to scan one item in the self-checkout lane, they've got 9 cameras trained on me, and I'll be in jail by the end of sundown. But you're telling me
we have 8 pieces of video evidence of them.
Okay,
there's 8. And that's not that's not cell phone evidence. You've got, if the way I understand it, there's 3 or 4 different pieces of people's mobile phones that caught him, right? Running across the top of the building, laying flat or otherwise.
Right.
But in the hallway cameras, the parking cameras, the building cameras, that's how they identified him. It was all of those photos. Clearly seeing his shirt, clearly seeing when he came in and he parked, clearly seeing him changing his clothes that caught in all of that. So there was tons of video footage.
Oh, well, I only saw 2 photos then. So I missed it then. If there's more than that, I only saw 2. That makes a lot more sense.
Also, let's understand the delay here. And here's what I mean. You got to put it in who has first jurisdiction. It would have been the campus police. The second thing, then you would have put your local police and sheriff there. A critical mistake was made, which could not have been avoided, with this idiot claiming he did it and saying, shoot me. Mm-hmm. So in the world of social media days, it went nuts. So now this police department, every investigating force that's on the ground, they're trying to figure it out. And you got this one bozo, long-haired, jumping up in town, right? They got Charlie, they got Charlie, they got Charlie. He's jumping up and down, like pumping the fist.
Yeah.
People are saying it's like he's signaling the sniper. No, it's the only way you can turn, and everything's uphill. And he's going, yeah. Well, they had to investigate that guy. Everybody saw that guy on camera. Every news station ran with it.
Yep.
They had to say they were questioning him, and it's 2 duds. That's 2 black marks in investigation right there. And so I think what they did was right. They shut everything down. Okay.
Yep.
Because they were looking at footage they didn't want to talk about first, they shut it down. They didn't lock everybody down because they knew this was a one-off. And then they methodically go back and we've got to find this person on all these cameras so we can kind of triangulate where he is.
Right.
Now, I do believe they would have found him because they had his car. They already knew his ID even before the pastor and the parent did it. So I think might it have been another couple of 3 or 4 hours, maybe, but I think they would have apprehended him. Now let's look at him. He was sloppy. He talked about it on Discord. He had friends. He talked about it too. He had people that he had gone to school and that knew he was this way and made these intonations. And now they've interviewed his trans roomie lover who has said the same. So this guy talked a lot. He was going to come up on radar one way or another, right?
Yep.
And as I understand it, the pastor and the dad basically talked to him, says, you got to turn yourself in. It took a little bit, but he came around to his senses and literally he turned himself in.
Yeah.
That's my understanding of what happened.
Yeah. No, yeah. Me too. Me too. Okay. Very good. Wow.
I mean, if you're planning an assassination, come on, you're not going on Discord.
Right.
Right. You're not bragging about, which he did. You're not bragging about, I've even marked the bullets.
Well, and that's another one, though. I think Discord came out and said, oh, we've searched the servers. We don't see that. And the FBI said he was on Discord. And I think the company came out and said no.
Yes, there is a disconnect there. I don't have any answers on it, but I can give you my opinion.
Sure.
Sometimes people can mistake Discord or some of the gaming platforms and or Signal or whatever, and they just used, maybe it was Discord. But I can also say, because of the heat of some of the Discord channels that people have been moving to, Discord might want to disavow it.
Yeah.
They may see something that got past their moderators because it was allowed, because it was Trump derangement syndrome. And they were in a world of shit and hurt, said, we can't be associated with this festered on our servers. They have a lot to lose.
Right.
We don't know. And nobody has actually produced, and that's why I haven't seen the screenshots, but they're saying it's Discord and they're saying that police or investigators saw screenshots. I'm assuming that's from a mobile phone, but none of that's been released.
Right.
But Discord has a lot of liability and culpability in this. I could see where maybe they think it would be good to say, you know, we looked, we didn't have them, because they can always go back. Oh, we just missed it. Here it is, trying to see what happened. But I would think standard protocol would be, we didn't find anything, to disavow it and hope it goes away.
Yeah. Jovan, how hard of a shot is that to make? The shot that killed Charlie, and especially aiming for the neck. I mean, I don't know if he.
Walk me through it. Well, hang about this. And this is what I told people. One of the things that came out is that's a professional shot because they kill him in the throat. They shoot you in the throat. An assassin doesn't shoot you in the throat. Total horseshit. An assassin's not narrowing down their shot, right? They're only increasing the odds of their shot.
It seemed odd unless you either you just missed, or you are not a professional, or you thought he was wearing some sort of.
I think it was a lucky shot.
Okay.
When I analyze it and look at it, he was using a Mauser, right? A little older bolt action. Most people don't know this, but the preferred weapon, if you're going to take a shot as a sniper, is a bolt action. It's a much more stable platform. You're not using an automatic platform. This particular one is a little bit slower bullet than if it was using what a sniper may use traditionally, like a 308, right? So you're getting about 800 feet per second slower. It's still over 2,000 feet per second,
Yeah.
but being in that older platform, you get what's a more stable bullet.
Okay.
Right now, at this particular shot that was taken, I looked at all the windage and everything going on. All the reports saying it was fluctuating between 5 and 10 miles per hour. That means he had a variability of anywhere from 2 to 4 inches that the bullet would move at a distance of 200 yards. I mean, it could be off that.
Wow.
And so if I logically think about it, because it was a centroid shot. He was lined up with Charlie. He wasn't off at a distance, wasn't really shooting at an angle. He was basically like, think of a guitar neck.
Yeah.
Up here at the where the guitar strings and everything are. He's up here and he's shooting straight down that line to the end of the frets and the bowls there. So he's lined up with Charlie. When I think about the windage, I did all the math and everything else on it to try to understand the shot. I think he was aiming for center of gravity just to hit him right in the chest because he's a high riser, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's sitting on a high chair. That's the most is.
Yeah.
And I think between windage and nervousness, I think if he would have been any more nervous, Charlie would be alive. I think he just sheer happenstance it caught Charlie right here.
Wow. Okay.
So I think it was not a good shot. Not that any assassin shot's a good shot for somebody taking somebody out. I think it was a lucky shot at best.
Wow. Okay. So not intentional, in your opinion?
No. It was intentional. No.
What? Not in the neck.
No.
Not intentional.
The neck, the throat, the jugular has nothing to do with it.
Wow.
You have to take the size and scope of the shot. When people were saying that he went for the carotid, right, that's what this is.
Right.
You have a 1-inch target.
Yeah.
Right? To cut that, to hit it, just like Trump's ear, which is even less. Mm-hmm. If you assume that was a shot at the carotid, then you basically have to assume that it is a shooter that can shoot and hit a quarter dead center at 200 yards. All the other evidence that we know about this guy says that ain't shit.
Okay.
A sniper does not take that chance. A sniper gets paid to kill. Period. A kill is a kill is a kill is a kill. Right? Now, there's, the Mexicans will give you a Colombian necktie where they'll slit your throat, reach up, grab your tongue, and pull it out your throat. That's to send a message, but that's close quarters. It's not an assassin.
Yeah.
And so what I see, somebody who used enough of a rifle, 100% steady, he was shooting down.
Yeah.
Down, which means he laid his gun. It's at a very natural angle just to be looking down the barrel of that scope or whatever, scope or oculus he had. It's going to be perfectly stable, right? His breathing's going to be mitigated because it can't raise the tip of the barrel because it's pointed down. Right. Versus if he was standing prone, shooting over a ledge where your breath's going to affect it. All of the things that naturally take out breath or windage that can change the variation by 4 to 8 inches, by the way.
Wow.
This was just a perfect circumstance of shooting fish in a barrel, unfortunately. But I do think it was a lucky shot. It's an unfortunate shot. I don't think it was good enough to make it. He just got lucky, and it ended up being a fatal shot.
Why do we know so much already about Tyler Robinson, and we still know nothing about Thomas Crooks?
Because Crooks was set up in Pennsylvania, and it was planned to take Trump out.
Yeah.
This was a radical person. That's why we know more. That was government cover-up still to this day. It was horseshit.
Yeah. And of course, I know the answer to that before I ask it, but I just couldn't resist.
No, it's just the truth. I mean, people have to compare it, right? People have to compare it. I mean, think of, what did I do? 20 hours of forensics on everything and training so people would understand what they're looking at. That was a professional hit with the patsy that they took down, and everything leads to that, especially how he's cremated. Nobody knew it. That was all That was all a setup.
You know, that's another one. You know, now you got me thinking a little bit. Let me see if I can summarize this in an accurate way, because I know you and I have talked about this a lot. But I think your general thought, and probably mine too, is that you had crooks up there on the roof as the patsy, but the real shooter was somewhere farther back, and that was part of a professional much farther back, and he takes that shot. But in that shot too, and I know Trump turned his head, and that's of course how he missed the bullet. We all know that. But that if that's a professional back there, did he miss too, or that's another headshot, not a body shot?
No, that was a headshot. That's all that was available.
Okay.
When you look at where it was, he's probably looking at President Trump atop the shoulders. In that scenario, they're not going to go for a body shot. The expert is going to go for a headshot because they need the kill. They can't wound him.
Okay.
Because it will make him a hero, which is exactly what it did.
Right.
Which is the same reason it couldn't have been orchestrated, because you couldn't have timed the breath and the turn for it to pierce the ear, which is total crap. So I think that was designed to be a kill shot. I think God intervened and it didn't happen that way, and you can't pop them off quick enough. When you change, an assassin doesn't pull the trigger. It's not like you think. It's not little gangster, bing, 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 bing. That's just not how it happens. It's a very controlled, measured, light thing that if you had to put it on a trigger scale, it's barely going to register. That's what those guns are trained to do. If you now move into the mode where you're having to pop off several, you're just not going to have the time to do it. And by that time, President Trump was down where he should have been. You're not going to get another chance.
Interesting. All right. Well, I want to talk about Arizona, if we can switch gears. But let me ask you one off the wall topic first, just as we transition. You know, we've talked in the past, of course, you know, you're Jewish, and we've talked about that. And there's a lot of buzz, and the Feast of Trumpets is coming up, Rosh Hashanah. There's so much buzz online right now about September 23rd or 22nd or 24th about something big happening. Just curious, as someone that is Jewish, do you track those days? Do you expect big things to happen on those days, or is it you know, much ado about nothing?
I would think I would equate it this way. Everybody's going to see symbology in all of it. People are going to see symbology that Charlie was killed on the 10th. It was the news on the 11th. The anti-Semitic rhetoric and stuff that's been being talked about and pumped about right now is way blown out of proportion. It's designed to make Israel look bad and evil. I'm not sure why people don't see that.
Right, and I guess I'm asking from a positive standpoint about, you know, it seems like historically God seems to do things on, I'm not saying bad things. God seems to act on those holy days, the feast days. So, you know, I'm asking more from a positive angle. Do we look for something to happen on those days?
You know, every day I see God's hand in this. Every day, even when the first Butler thing. You know, I hate to say that was Charlie's walk and Charlie got assassinated, but Charlie's work will now live forever. More people than ever know about him. It's being used for a good thing. That's why we can't squander it.
No doubt.
I have no way to predict what God's going to do when, but I can tell you evil is pushed back on its heels.
And that's a dangerous place to be.
Evil is terrified. And evil right now is fighting for its life, which means there's evil for the sake of being evil, which is ruthless and murderous anyway. But when you see evil trying to survive, it's a different type of evil. And so all stops are going to be pulled out. So we're in a very dangerous position. In order to counter that, yes, something big has to happen in a very God way. I have no way to pinpoint it. I just know it and can feel it, and it's happening. Behind the scenes, I can tell you things are moving now so much faster. So many people's eyes are being opened in government or otherwise to really what the truth is, that finally now more than any time in these last 4.5 years since 2020, when people finally started to open their eyes. I think we're now at the point the truth is truly finally breaking through. You're going to start seeing people being arrested, going to jail. You've already seen it with raids and stuff happening. It's all breaking through right now. And I can tell you, just knowing stuff behind the scenes of what's coming and what people are seeing and what people are seeing from an evidence standpoint, evil's terrified. And we are so close to having it all be exposed. And if you thought it was bad then, you're going to find out it was even bad more. But that's what makes this probably the most dangerous time in American history ever.
Yeah. Well, it certainly feels that way to me too. And, you know, it seems to, I don't know that I've ever seen any other time in my life. And I actually thought it would go the other direction. And for most of my life it has, but in these past few years, maybe I would say the amount of, you know, you call it revival or whatever you want to call it, but big names, people talking about God or their faith. And, you know, I know Tucker's controversial these days, but, you know, Tucker, every other show, he's talking about the Bible and everything else. And there just seems to be this resurgence of people that I never thought I would see. I thought that was gone, and it's back. Big athletes, big people on that have shows, and it seems like the veil is off, the cover is off. To like for a while, you had to kind of ignore it or not say it, but people are just boldly going out there with that now, and it's incredible to watch.
Yeah, more people are being uncuffed and unshackled, but that's part of DEI and stuff going away and cancel culture now being shunned. You're going to see it at a more accelerated pace now with, unfortunately, what happened with Charlie. You're going to see the dynamic of a truly great, knowledgeable, valued, methodical, fair person and the left being evil. You're now going to see a cleaving of people that would consider themselves lefty or even consider themselves Trump haters. You're going to start seeing them come forward and say, I was wrong, and I'm not blue, I'm red.
And it seems like a lot of people are waking up to the fact that, you know, it's not just blue versus red or Republican. They're realizing we are in the center of a spiritual war that we can't always see. But I mean, I just never thought people would be talking about that in you know, large venues, and they are. It's wild. Well, I can't, it's very refreshing. I can't let this go. People will be shouting at me in the comments because you just said it, and I got to go back to it. You said, you know, of course you have certain sources and people you talk to, and you said the evidence that they have and the things that are coming and the arrests. As we sit here right now, and I think I know the answer to it because I can see that backlash of a caged dog backed into a corner. But as based on what you know, and as you sit here today, do you believe we are actually going to get those big arrests? You know, not just the nickel and dime arrests, but the big arrests of the big names that everybody wants to see. Do you believe that is coming?
I think you're going to see arrests that are going to shock the world. And I think you're going to see arrest of people that you knew were bad. And I think you're going to see arrest of people that you thought were good and you had no idea were bad.
Excellent. Yes. And I not to say that this is one of those people that fits into that camp, but I so regret voting for George Bush, both of them.
I love the Bushes. I voted for the Bushes. And I was blind.
Yes.
I was blind. I cannot believe how blind I was to it. Now it's plain as day.
It is. Yeah, perfectly said. Okay, well, there you go, everybody that's listening. That might be the biggest bombshell of the whole show. It's certainly been a great show already, but arrests likely are still coming, and ones that you expect and ones that you don't expect, and I'm here for all of it. Jovan, let's talk Arizona, because, you know, that's really how I first came to know about you when you burst on the scene with your forensic audit down there. But there's still a lot happening. Tell me about what you're doing. Tell me about protecting the Arizona Audit Archive and upcoming deadlines. I know you've got a website here, which I'm going to put in the chat for us.
Right.
I'll turn it over to you. What's going on?
Well, we've got to go back. I think many people are now waking up that when it comes to election integrity, there has been an incredible amount of psychological warfare going on. In fact, we spoke about it. How can the President Trump say we got to get rid of mail-in ballots, but the RNC say bank your ballots, which is only code for mail-in ballots? It's a war. And it's a war of political systems, operatives that are taking money, and people that just want to get America fixed. If we were to go back and look, there were 64 lawsuits that were brought, we'll call it Trump allies, regarding the 2020 election. The first 20 lawsuits that came forward all got dismissed by the courts. Things you heard like you don't have standing or they don't have merit.
Oh, but you never heard that. We always just heard that they were dismissed, leading people to believe that the lawsuits were bogus and there was no fraud. That's
right.
Well,
the media plays a trick on that, but here's kind of how it works. It's a real simple process. When it comes to elections, we have state elections. We don't have federal elections. So we have state elections with a federal component, not federal elections with a state component. And so since each state has its own laws, its own rules, its own things to decide that it wants to run on the recommendation of the Election Assistant Commission or the Help America Vote Act, and then its own constitutional laws, it all has to be ferreted out at the state level.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what many people did is they filed lawsuits and they tried to accelerate them by going directly to the federal level using a federal statute, because it was primarily about, President Trump, and that was the federal component in the state election. When you go to federal court, or even when you go to the upper courts, you have a requirement that it has to be heard by the lower courts. And if it hasn't been heard by the lower court, the federal court or even Supreme Court says, nope, you can't bring this here yet. You haven't gone through the process, and they kick it out. They're not kicking out saying we won't hear it. They're saying we won't hear it now because you got to go back to state because this is a state issue. Mm-hmm. So the media played a con game on a lot of this by telling you they had no merit, and that was not true. Well, the first 20 cases that came out of the oven all basically said it's the machines. The machines changed the votes. They took away from Trump. They gave to Biden. And then you had this stuff about one part of the con was we heard supposedly one of the executives of the election company went on to an Antifa call and says, don't worry, we've taken care of it. All of that got triangulated in with people saying, and it went to China and it went over here and it swapped over here. Well, number one, it was all bullshit. It was all bullshit. Now, what happens is when you focus on the machines, all of the rules regarding the machines are voluntary. There is no enforcement action. The Election Assistant Commission rules are voluntary. The HAVA rules end up becoming voluntary. The states say, oh, well, we just follow the recommendation of the Election Assistance Commission. Those recommendations says all of this is voluntary. You either do use security or you don't, you get to choose. Well, that means none of them were enforceable. But because you have to show how the crime occurred, what the crime did, what did it change, who did it benefit, and then ultimately how it happened, meaning you have to show the program and stuff. Technically, in the eyes of courts, there was no evidence. See, it all is about the burden of proof, and this thing is called reasonable doubt. It has to be relevant, it has to be provable, it has to be testable, and it has to be duplicatable. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of these things came out that I did math and it's a 6-degree polynomial and here's the algorithm and the courts do not allow that. Well, unfortunately, in all of these first proceedings, people took all of that stuff, which was never really vetted, and they jammed it into the lawsuits. That gave the system an excuse to kick it out because every bit of it was not provable. You can't prove it. You can't not only prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt, you couldn't prove it was the two things you need, which is called relevant and reliable. Let me give you an example. When a mathematician comes forward and said, I looked at the census in 2004, and I looked at these 4 counties in Minnesota, and then I did this math thing here, and did I trade with this, and I did it here, and here's what I think happened, and here's how it was done. Well, the first thing you have to ask yourself in a court of law, is that relevant? So I'll ask it to you this way. Can you look at the 2004 census and find anything relevant in the 2004 census that shows a vote was swapped one way or the other in 2020?
I sure wouldn't think so.
You can't.
No.
Okay. So the next thing, one of these things said, I took a percentage of the voters here. I took a percentage of the voters here. I took a percentage, and that's how I came up with what it should be. Well, the question is, then on that one, is that relevant and reliable? Well, basically, you're already saying you're taking a percentage of the pie, not facts.
Yeah.
That by default not only makes it not relevant, it makes it not reliable. Then we'll go to the next bit. Well, they did this in all 3,300 counties. How do you know? Well, I looked at 4 counties in Michigan. So now here's the question. Can you look at 4 counties in Michigan and tell how 3,400 counties voted in 175,000 precincts?
Yeah, I sure wouldn't think so.
You can't.
Nope.
Now, so what happened is those are all the theories that got put forth. Let's look at the next theory. We saw vote changes on TV. Now, people, granted, did see vote changes on TV.
I was going to say, I do remember seeing that myself.
Right. Okay. Well, you got to run this trap. People thought that was the election data. Number one, it's not the election data. It has never been the election data in all of history. That's done by the Edison Data Company. They use about 3,000 college students, high school students, and dialing for dollars to dial the precincts and say, what's the vote now? What's the vote now? They have kind of like a hotline. And then they pull it from other news sources and they give you what they feel the trend is. So you got to ask yourself, one, is that the vote? Even if it changes, is that the vote? Now, in a court of law, no, it's not the vote. It never has been the vote. It's only an estimate. It's a TV mechanism. Next, you have to ask about the reliability. Is it reliable? Well, if you got 3,000 high school and college kids writing down numbers and putting it in a little spreadsheet so it sends back to the company electronically, could there be a margin of error in that? Well, of course there can.
Yep.
And then again, it's not the certified data. So how is it relevant? And so you can't use trends based on that information. Now, I can tell you what was done is they ran a psychological operation on us.
Yeah.
They needed you to see the numbers on TV and how convenient somebody come out and said, well, I was on a call and I infiltrated it and I heard this Eric Coomer guy and he says, don't worry about it. People don't tend to put these things together, but how convenient is it that you see the numbers change on TV for the first time in history, by the way, and then somebody comes out and I heard a voting company executive said, yeah, don't worry, we're going to do it. Well, let's go about this. You're going to coup the nation. You're going to take control of over $400 trillion in assets between the government and Americans. And you're just going to happen to drop it on your Antifa buddies on a Zoom call? Come on, right? So when you look at this, what it did is it set the news tone. Everybody talked about it. Well, nobody had ever fought cases like this. Not a single attorney, not any of it, right? We didn't have any of this. And so they were relying on what? Television. Same thing we did with mainstream media. They were relying on television. Well, that's an expert. They're a mathematician. They must know. Well, all of these guys wrote this into their lawsuits. So 20 of them would get immediately dismissed. 30 of them actually got to hearings, and the hearing says, this is trash. This is not evidence. This is hearsay. This is opinion. And then the other 14, after those 50 went through it, the other 14, Trump et al. Said, we're not even going to bring this up anymore because it's not getting us anywhere.
But what about you, Jovan? You actually had the evidence. I mean, we've talked so many times in the past. Why didn't your evidence get in there?
Well, you got to understand how this game is played. Early on when it was announced that I was actually going to do the Arizona audit, one of 3 people, but for the first time in history, forensics was going to be brought to it. The very first thing that happened in my life is I got this random call from Arizona saying, you maybe you don't really want to do this. All these lawmakers, their kids go to the same school. They're all friends. You know how it works. We'll just set up a foreign account. We'll put $10 million in it and just, don't do the audit. Well, I'm not made that way, right? I can't sell my country for $10 million. I just wouldn't do it.
I think
for any amount.
I heard Carrie Lake tell a very similar story about an offer they tried to make to her.
Carrie's was $20 million for her to stop, right? Yeah. Which Carrie says, I'm not doing that.
Yep.
And so once they found out that I and my team couldn't get bought, then what they began to do is to try to find ways to subvert the Arizona audit to make sure that the real numbers didn't get out. Well, there's a difference between me and the other 2 auditors. You had Cyber Ninjas, and then you had Cypher. In their contracts with the Senate, 3 of us had contracts with the Senate. In their contracts with the Senate, it says, you'll do this, here's the scope of work, here's what you're going to do. But the Senate gets to decide what information gets released. Most people don't know that. In my contract, now the lawyers beat the shit out of me and said, we get to decide what you release. And I said, let me see if I get this right. I'm inventing brand new technologies that have never been invented. I'm not using anything you've ever used. Nobody's ever done what I've done in history. Nobody's ever looked at it forensically in history. And by the way, I have the patents on it. And so you're telling me that I can't release what that is. I says, well, let me tell you how this works. Number 1, you may have the data, but I own the expression of the data by law because I express it and show it and prove it where nobody else is before. And that's my data. And if you don't like it, then I won't do the audit. Well, they tried hook and crook thinking they ran me off. And I said, look, you can decide. So they thought they had gotten rid of me and they were all excited about it, right? Because I said, I'm not going to do it. If I don't see them all and you don't understand this, and I'm not going to look at a fraction of it, I'm doing every one of them just like you promised America. Well, they were all excited, thought they got rid of me. And I said, but just so you know, and I'm telling this to senators, just so you know, I'm going to go and I'm going to tell the public that what you told them, what you promised was absolute bullshit. And you're not going to look at all the ballots. And so that generated about 60,000 phone calls to the Arizona Senate, which shut down the entire Arizona switchboard. And people said, you said you're going to do it, you better damn do it. So that's when we went to the next evolution where they've got to, 1, they got to work hard to discredit me, which they did. I survived an assassination attempt in 22. They tried to kill me. Wow. And then they just started spreading all these kind of rumors they could do, even down to, as we would get our forensic data from the audit and we would get the high def photos we're supposed to get, they manipulated every one of them. They'd switch them out of order, right? They'd jumble them up. That way the systems couldn't read them. So I had to force everybody in Arizona to go back 3 times to redo them. Wow. To get them right so we could get the information and get it done. There was so much underhanded sabotage. But you have to understand what I do. When it comes to a ballot, it either is the right ballot or it is not. It either is on the right paper or it is not. It was either sent through the mail or it wasn't. It was either voted by a human. If it came through the mail, it can't be voted by a machine. It is either a duplicate or it's not. It's either the right color or it's not. It's either the right precinct or it's not. All I do is look at facts compared to exactly what the guys certified. That's what they couldn't allow to happen. They can allow theory and hearsay to go to court anytime they want. But let me take you through just one day. So I'm going to take you through, as I told you earlier, they count election day first. Well, if you remember the thing about Sharpie Gate.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So I broke that and I said the Sharpies the rig. And here's how it works. They bleed through, they confuse the machines, and the machine gets to temporarily suspend it. Okay?
Yep.
And so here comes election days. So let's just say we're talking about 150,000 ballots. When they forced all those people to vote with Sharpies, just like I said it was going to cause, it bled through the paper. So those 150,000 ballots had an extra 2.1 million votes on them. That's how bad the bleed through was.
Wow.
Well, it's kind of like spilling coffee on a ballot. The machine doesn't know what to do with it because the vote's all over the places. So what it does is it suspends it. It doesn't cancel it. It doesn't change the vote. They know what the vote is. It just suspends it. Now, put that in your little hopper of evidence. Let's go back here. Now we're looking at the evidence trail. What tells us that that anomaly is part of a system, not just a random act? Well, here's a few things. It was the first time in history that officials demanded you used a Sharpie.
Yep.
They demanded it.
Mm-hmm.
The county came out and said that for the first time in history, they came out and said, we use vote secure paper and they won't bleed through because it has a protective coating. First time it ever happened. Well, the paper company knew I was going to do an audit. The paper company who cared about their reputation called me and said they didn't use the right paper. They never placed an order for it.
Wow.
So now I have inside information. They never placed an order, right? So I'm working with the paper company, going through all the forensics and everything else. They train me, they train my team, we win even more. So we have that kind of little smoking gun. Then let's go back. As I told you, they vote for, basically 30 days. Well, in that process is called the chain of custody. In that chain of custody, when ballots are picked up, somebody signs a sheet and says, here's where the ballots come from. Here's the security number that was on it. We cut it. We replace the security number with this. A person verifies they picked it up. A supervisor said, yes, this is you. And then two transport people say, yes, I took it and I took it. They go together as a team. And then they go down to this thing called MTech. MTech has a security officer sign it. Yes, we're taking it in. Then it confirms, okay, we're taking it in, and here's how many ballots. The whole way it tells how many ballots. Well, again, they knew forensically we'd find it out. So what we did is we took every chain of custody document in, down to the signature. We taught computers to read it. We could see where there was blanks. So we had basically 27 perfect days of everybody filling out the form the way it was supposed to be filled out. One time, one signature, they missed one thing filling it in. Otherwise, it was almost perfect. So what we have is a trend of 27 days of them following operational procedure. Now, remember when I told you on election day, they suspended all ballots?
Yeah.
Now let's look at that day. On that day, the chain of custody, which goes with that, they weren't signed. Unanimously across the board, they weren't signed. They 100% failed to sign. They were transported. They 100% failed to sign. We took them in. They 100% failed to put how many ballots were taken each time, all missing. Now you got to think, why would you do that? Well, now you have plausible deniability because you can't show how many ballots were transferred. So that's a big red thing. Wait a minute. They were all suspended. And now you do this great for 27 days. And all of a sudden on this same one day, you get it all screwed up. So that means somebody told them to do it. Set that aside. Part of the fight where you saw the little viral hit of Wendy get the routers, Sonny get the routers with President Trump. Well, that was fighting for the Splunk logs and data, which kind of confirms a lot of this stuff. Anyway, in all of that, when they handed over everything for the audit, we got one big massive file that was corrupted.
Hmm.
No expert in the world could open it up. Now, magically, it happened to be election day. Now, what are the odds of that? It happened to be election day. So it's in a JSON format. I even get the developers of that format to look at it and they go, these have been intentionally corrupted. We have no idea what's here. We couldn't see anything. Well, we're fighting in court to get all of this data. And they said, we turned it over. We turned it over. We turned it over. Said, well, no, you didn't. We didn't get this. We go right to court where the subpoena says you hand it over, you go into jail. And then magically they find this one drive out of all the drives. And magically, here's the drive. Now, what's interesting about the drive is that drive did have all of those ballots, but every single one of them were manipulated and changed. All of the file structures were changed. All of the date were lopped off and gone. And they gave us this drive. It says, well, you didn't ask for the ones that were archived. Total crap. So when we go in and look at that, we can see where this is what they say went to the machine. And it's all these election day ones, which were suspended. But what they don't have is the image of the actual ballot they counted going into the machine. It automatically makes an image. So we got a ballot they saying is real. We have an image missing of right when it goes in the machine. Magically, they have the one that says, no, this is how it was voted, and they counted it, but we didn't get any of this till months later, right? So that's another one. The chain of custody is gone. Every ballot was suspended, and now you have them and find them. And last but not least, as we're doing all of our stuff, because we're dealing with everyone, we found out that those ballots, they ran in December 8th and 9th. What they did is they played a game. Every single election day ballot was hijacked. It's all evidence, boom, boom, boom. And it's all this same block of evidence. And I'm not even telling you everything. And the big deal is, if it's about a machine, it's a misdemeanor. But when it comes to a ballot, each instance is a state and a federal felony. So this is 129,000 additional felonies. And we're the only person that people that know who handled it, where did it come in, who was supposed to sign for it and didn't. So we now know all of the players involved and how they did it. Now, what they did is they basically started psychological warfare. We have it all. We got the PCAPs. We've got this and this, and everybody believed that crap. Well, when it got to court about the PCAPs, you find out, well, we never really had them. It was all psychological warfare to keep people away from the paper. Paper is the only thing that puts these guys in prison. That's why they wanted people to stay away from the paper. Now, what they didn't account for is our team. We have stayed in forensic mode for now 1,600 days.
Wow.
Most people would have closed out their forensics. Now, what this means for us is we got paid $210,000 to do a job, right? As a forensic auditor. We've spent over $3 million doing it.
Yeah, right.
Right? Because you don't let this go. It costs an incredible amount to keep this information going. You got to keep it all in perfect chain of custody. What they try to do is they try to break you to try to just get you to stop. And then they can say, well, you closed it out. How do we know this is even the right stuff? So we've just come to the point, because I've reached in my pocket to do this, that we need outside help. We've never raised money before for what we do, right? We've never had a fundraiser before, but we're now at the point that this is some of the most critical and only evidence that exists. Everything for 2020 has been destroyed. We're the only ones that have everything. You can recreate the entire election. Now, why is it important? Maricopa is the 4th largest county in the United States of America, the 2nd largest voting block of people in the United States of America, and it has a larger vote than even most states. It's historic. It has never been done. And even if you go back to the hanging Chad scenarios, that was about 64,000 ballots. This was 2+ million. And so not only is it historic, but it's kept in perfect chain of custody. So we just need some help carrying it through. So we have set up a GoFundMe. This is how they play the game. They have tried to sweat us out all of this time. They have done everything they can to not have this evidence come to light. We're just fighting to keep it alive because, we're just at the point now. I've willingly done it and spent millions to do it. I care about my country, but you can't keep doing that. You can't just keep hemorrhaging and bleeding. They're going to pull this stuff in the midterms. We've got to keep all of this data alive at least till the end of 27. So we're asking for some help to do it. Now, what's even more important, if we go bigger than our GoFunding needs, which you can see, it's at givesendgo.com/save the evidence 2020. It's the Arizona Audit Archive. So it's givesendgo.com/save the evidence 2020. If we go over that amount we need just to protect it, we have 5 new forensic methods that we have developed since the election that we can even cross-confirm. Now, here's the point. You don't take random evidence. If you took this line of 10 different things in evidence for this one thing, they all deal with these 100,000+ ballots. Boom, 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 boom. That's how you prove and protect evidence, but you got to have the physical evidence to do it and to be able to show how it was done, what it affected, the whole bit. And that's why they fought so hard. But even if you look at the lady that just got arrested for submitting more ballots, it's always about the paper. They want you to talk about the machines because it's just a misdemeanor. So here's the bottom line. They tried to buy me off to do it. They tried to kill me to make sure it didn't see the light of day. They've destroyed every business we've ever been in, right? It's been a methodical shutting down of everything we've ever done. They scrubbed my background, my books, my patents. They try to even scrub my history to make us persona non grata. They put agents out there saying, full forensic audit was a joke. It was a grift. They tried everything, but we outweighed it. We just now need some help. It's the greatest work I've ever done in my life. From a forensic standpoint, it's monumental and it's historic. But see, it's all about moving the ball. I'll give you an example. Charlie Kirk was killed because he moves the ball. What he does is effective.
Right.
He's the 4th largest organization that goes into colleges and universities. He eclipses all the DNC stuff. It's a dangerous man because he's moving millions of lives. That's what it comes to forensic. We're dangerous. We're hated. We're dangerous, but it is what it is. But we've been under psychological warfare for 4 years. Oh, yeah, I was on an Antifa call. They said they did it. It's the machines. It's out of Venezuela. It's China. All crap, because even if it was, it's all unprovable in court and a misdemeanor. And I operate on forensic evidence that is physical evidence with the ballot, which makes, when you prove it, each instant of it, and there's hundreds of thousands of these, is on its own both a state and a federal felony. And that's what we need help supporting and keeping, because it will be used. It'll eventually come to court. As long as we stay in audit mode, it's live. It doesn't lapse. But also for history, we've got to close these doors off, make sure they don't do it. And now that people are realizing that the PCAPs were never real, it was all a joke and it had to be admitted in court, they were never had. People are waking up. We've got to play to win, and that's what my team does. We play to win.
Yeah, you've done tremendous work, and obviously we've covered it so many times here in the past and on our website. So I love that. The website link is on our screen here. We'll post it down below wherever you're watching this video too. So appreciate anybody that wants to support that. What is the we've got Trump back in office, so we're back in power. I know you've actually been to Mar-a-Lago and visited him, so you have some sort of contact there.
Right.
What is the? I mean, I think preserving this is absolutely essential. We have to do it. But what's the runway on this thing? What's the end game? When can we use it all, or can we? Is there a statute of limitations?
No. See, that's the deal. There's a statute of limitations when it comes to election things. There's not a statute of limitations when it comes to crimes. That's why we have stayed in audit mode. And that's why we have to keep on doing and discover. That's why I've got, 5 more programs we can do to verify this stuff, but I'm not going to develop them now, because as we develop them and do them, it helps bring all the other stuff back in. So we're not subject to the same things a lot of people are subject to. But I look at people like Stacey Abrams, they raised $2 billion. The left has the rig because they keep their people going. The right is kind of wishy-washy.
Well,
but this is evidence, folks. You know about hanging chads.
Yes.
And that was 64,000 ballots. We're talking, let me give you an example of what we did. And I think most people don't know this.
Well, hang on. Before you do that, I just got to correct the record, Jovan, because Stacey Abrams needed that $2 billion to send refrigerators out to rural countries, communities. She needed it, Jovan.
The biggest refrigerators in the world, right? She is the refrigerator. Anyway, for the Maricopa audit, which is the only election ever in American history that has been forensically documented and examined. Now, it was all kinematic to begin with, because when they were looking at hanging chads, they were looking at the movement of the paper. I just took it to the next realm of AI, computer vision, and machine learning. We processed in that audit, if you remember all the colors on the floor, and the press beat the hell out of me because it looks like Power Rangers and it's goofy. No, it's because, remember, it was all filmed to document everything. And so by watching those colors, even down to the lines on the floor, folks, if you go back and look, you'll see like yellow team, and their tapes would be yellow. Why did I do that? Because if I saw a yellow person go outside that yellow tape and go over to a blue team, I knew something was up. It was so tightly managed and thought out. Well, what we did,
very smart, very professional, very smart.
Yes, thank you. It was the first time in history it's ever been done. It was impeccable. See, now where people can say, well, I think it was a theory, and here's what it is. In my stuff, as we show evidence, let's just talk 100,000 ballots, hypothetically, I can show in court, if it pleases the court, go to pallet number 42. And in pallet number 42, there are going to be 38 boxes. Go to level 4 on the box. It's going to be the 4th box on that level. Open that box. Here's the number on it. When you open that box, you're going to find 8 batches of ballot. Pull batch number 7. When you pull batch number 7, there's going to be 198 ballots. Go to ballot number 71. We're the only people in the world that can do that. That's what we designed it to. So we did 20,895,610 forensic photograph digital images. That's what we did. Now that resulted in us creating, because remember, it runs through the programs. It's got to show, here's what it was. Here's the evidence. Here's why. We created 208 million forensic evidence proof files. In order to do that, our systems processed over 56 billion forensic measurements. And if you look at those measurements, we actually processed over 2 trillion base computations to understand what happened. I can tell you if the person was left-handed, right-handed, what type of pen they used, down to everything, down to finding exactly where that ballot is so that ballot can be pulled and proven. So this is not hopium. This is not, well, just believe this mathematician and it sounds cool and hip, or think it went to China and they did it hokey pokey. I'll give you an example. This will help bring it home for you. What we're talking about right now is hardcore provable forensic evidence. It's like fingerprints, shoe prints, hair, DNA, you name it. It's got to be physical. You're hearing that 30 white hats saved the 2024 election and kept President Trump's votes from being changed. Now you're hearing stuff like that, and it was in Serbia. In order for that to occur, now you got to use logic. It means that the people who were protecting had to know where the threat was coming from, what the threat was going to hit, how the threat was going to grab the data, how the threat changed the data, and they had to keep that from happening. Well, those are all touch points, but you hear they did it. They saved it and Trump won. Well, then you got to ask yourself, we lost down ticket and they kept counting for 60 days. So what'd they do? Only make sure Trump got in and didn't deal with that? But then you got to go to the next logic side. We don't know who these people are. We keep hearing it. But you do understand, in order to do that, they would have to be on every election server, seeing every vote as it came in and went out, seeing every vote as it changed, seeing the programs that did it. Now, that'd be hardcore evidence to shut down everything down. That's the holy grail of digital evidence.
Right.
But we don't see any of that. We're just supposed to believe 30 people saved the election. That's all vaporware. I don't deal on that side. I deal on hardcore physical forensic evidence. 2,000 people volunteered over a month of their time to do this. It's the only time it happened in history, and unfortunately, maybe the only time we get it. But it is the only rock solid, absolute physical, prosecutable, in-court evidence proof. We've kept it alive. We desperately need your help to keep it alive. We have the patience and the fortitude to get there. But even just for the historical record part of when this comes to the Supreme Court, the evidence is massive, and we can't let this evidence just fall off a cliff.
How did Elon Musk know so early in the night on election night that Trump had won? You've heard those reports, right? That he announced Trump had won and then he flew down to Mar-a-Lago. How did he know that?
Well, there is the parties themselves get real-time trending data. You're going to see trending data, but it's a matter of touch point resources. Kamala didn't have the turnout, and she didn't have the turnout by millions, and that was easily seen early on, easily. And so just that very simple educated guess, knowing what was going on, there was no way Kamala could catch up. You can see that trending data. But if you want to see how bad the system really is, on election night, Kamala had 68 million votes. That's the equivalent of what Barack Obama got term 1 and term 2, and he was a rock star. That's about 3 million more votes than Hillary got in her run against Donald Trump. And then we've got this 81 million of Joe Biden. Right. You can go right now, and you can Google 2020 election night results. You can look it up. It'll be served by Reuters or the Election Commission. Even though Kamala closed out at 68 million and change, since the election, she has been risen to 75 million votes. See, they've quietly kept adding them because they're trying to close that gap of where it looks such an anomaly for Biden.
Yes.
So they've continually, since election, 9 months, have been adding votes to Kamala. She's almost up. There you go. You can see it's almost up at 75 million. Right. They have been progressively adding. Right. No, that's Biden. That's Biden and Trump. Look at Kamala.
I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. I just wanted to give that 81 million for reference, but here's
so that's 81 million. So what they're doing is they're trying to close that gap. So Kamala closed out at 68 million. They have continually added.
Look at that, 75.
Yeah, they have continually added over 9 months because they're trying to make that 81 look like it was kind of real, even though it never was.
Yeah.
That's the leading indicator that you need to know. They're going to pull this again in 26. They're going to sweep House and Senate. They're going to impeach President Trump. They're going to do it under the emoluments clause that basically says you took things you shouldn't have taken. And we have this damn $400 million jet that was accepted for Air Force One. That's their plan. That's what they're doing. That's the coup. And you can see right there how they've been trying to hide those numbers to make them valid. And that is why it is this data that we discovered and kept an audit that's going to prove exactly how they did it when they do this in the midterms in 2026. And that's why this data must be protected.
Yeah, that's great. When can we actually drop the hammer, Jovan? Like I said, Trump's back in office. You've preserved this. It's so well over all the years.
It's an ongoing process right now. A part of every part of my day is in this data exchange and planning and how and who should be indicted and where are the people and what are we finding. It's not as easy as you think. You don't go in and say, aha, You're tracking down all of these people that signed documents. Where are they now? Who is exactly in office? Where are these invoices, etc.? You're putting together with this evidence an impeccable case. That takes a long time, not a short time. And the whole time the RNC is trying to keep people away from the real information. So do I know when? No. Do I know what's coming? Yes. Do we need to make sure we have it? Yes. Will it get more important as every day goes on? You better believe it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think this is great. Everybody, please support that. The link's on the screen if you can. If you can't, I certainly understand that too. But
anything helps. It doesn't matter what it is. But this is the only time it's ever happened, and we've never raised money for it before. Now we need help.
But it just seems to me, Jovan, and maybe things are happening behind the scenes and you can't say here, but it seems to me like President Trump should have you connected with Pam Bondi and someone in the DOJ. And
well, you got to understand how it works. So let me give you those idiosyncrasies. President Trump and the administration can't foot the bill for this evidence. It was an independent audit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way they can foot the bill for this evidence. It's just not the way it works. They assign their researchers and or prosecutors. Everybody checks the whole thing, but it's up to us to keep it alive the whole time. Right? So it's not like they can swoop in and go, here you go, because you can't, quote unquote, buy the evidence. You follow what I'm saying?
Sure.
Court will boot that left and right. And that's what's been the fight the whole time. So it's not like you can do that. There are rules. It has to be the will of the people. I am the expert witness. And so I can't sit there and basically file the lawsuit because I am, in fact, by default, the expert witness. I have to stay in the expert witness mode, right?
Right.
There's just rules and regs, and I'm telling you, it's such a pain in the ass. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. No, I get that. I just, like so many other things, I wish we were seeing more out of Pam Bondi's office, and she should be working on this and calling you in. Yeah, frustrating. Okay, well, let's definitely preserve that evidence. Is there anything that can be done to catch some of this in real time in the midterms?
Yes. It's kind of a catch-22. People to this day still believe there was such a thing as all the evidence was caught being shipped to China. 3,000 some odd counties have the PCAP evidence. We have it all. We're going to show it and prove it. It's still not registering with them that it never existed. So it's very hard to get people to understand what is real evidence. Now, I've done a four-part series, on prosecutable evidence and what it is. It has to be firsthand account, and there are rules. And so where we're at square one on a lot of this is we have to move America along at the same time. And I'll use that example we used earlier. Everybody says, I saw him change the vote on TV. I saw him swap it and give it here. That's not evidence. It's not even the vote, but they did such a massive media campaign of getting you got to believe it's the machines. And so for the first time in history, the numbers changes on TV. Well, that convinced you it was the machines. It's been such a large psychological warfare that it's very methodical. We have to get over it. And it's not just America, it's lawmakers. Well, we got it all. It went to China and it went to Italy and went to this. You'd be amazed at what some of them believe. And it's been a very slow, major re-education process. So that's what we face at the hardest point, is rewiring people to understand what is true evidence in elections that is prosecutable.
Yeah. Let me ask you a related question about elections, but a little bit different topic. Since, I mean, I don't think anybody's more educated in this than you. So since I have you here, are you seeing any progress for midterms? Some mix of the deportations, some mix of maybe a new census, some mix of the state redistricting, and then some mix of maybe fighting against these mail-in ballots. Are you seeing any of that stuff maybe having a big impact on midterms?
Yes and no. Let me tell you why. For the redistricting that was done in Texas, which was great for Texas, and benefited Texas. Newsom pulled the same gig and redid it for California to have California get more to make up that difference. The president of the United States cannot dictate the rules of the election. Now, even though he has executive orders and stuff being drafted that says get rid of mail-in ballots, he can't dictate that. The best that could be done, if it could be figured out how to do electorally, says you can't, or how to be done to the electorate, is that you can make sure that president and Senate can only be voted in person and not on a ballot, but you have the rest on the ballot. See, the president can't make rules for the state. And people don't understand that. We have 50 elections, folks. We don't have one. And the president can only make recommendations and executive orders, but it is up to the state to put that into place. Now, he's putting in the right pressure that says, if in fact you don't get rid of mail-in ballots, you're going to lose your HAVA monies, Help American Vote Act, maybe 30 million, maybe 50 million, maybe 20 million for a state. Will the deep state make sure that's covered? Yes. Have they been wounded because we got rid of USAID and Doge found it all? Yes, but it's still going to be a war. So you have to understand what a president can mandate and not mandate. What I've asked for is the following. Critical infrastructure got protected during the pandemic. And in 2017, our elections were labeled critical infrastructure. First time in history it's ever happened. And so I've consulted the administration and other lawmakers that under critical infrastructure, that we can say our elections have been hijacked. We know the numbers aren't right. We know they're not being administered right. Therefore, we're calling it in under critical infrastructure. We've got to correct this. Then we have a slippery slope. That slippery slope is that the system wants to federalize our election. It basically means whoever's in power gets to decide the rules. And we can't have that happen either. That'd be a horrible disaster. And so it's walking a fine line between what can we really do with existing laws on the book, like critical infrastructure, et cetera, to get certain things done, but not open Pandora's box where it goes too far that we've actually federalized the elections. And if we ever do that, America would be over.
Wow. Okay. One other random question, but also related to elections. Is there any point that we get to some sort of solution, some sort of blockchain solution where the votes are all recorded on a public blockchain and can be audited and verified? Or is that the wrong way to go? Not more tech, we need less tech and just paper ballots and just leave it at that.
Ironically, for this one, I'm for less tech. Let me tell you why. First off, in America, we have what's called secret ballots. You can't tie a person's name and ID, voting ID, to the actual physical ballot. That's supposed to be kept a secret. So blockchain would be kind of hard to do. However, the post office and other people are trying to get it to where we vote on our mobile phone. If we ever end up voting on our mobile phone, we're dead. It's over.
Tell me about that.
Well, they're trying to say the way to make it secure or whatever, it's just on mobile phone. And if it's on mobile phone, we can do a blockchain and they can be, verified it's a real one. You're still never going to get to see the vote. It would still be electronic. You wouldn't have a proper paper trail, meaning a ballot, not a receipt. So that would be a slippery slope. If we're going to fix this, the way it has to be fixed is the following. And I told this to President Trump. We sat down for 96 minutes. And I said, if we're really going to fix this, you have to get rid of the voter rolls. They have to be just totally eliminated. Everybody impugned all at the same time, right? We got to wipe them off the books. Now, you got to remember, that's where the cheating comes from. That's the ammunition for the machine. So everybody goes away at once. Then we've got to have our election day be a national holiday. You have to have a driver's license or state ID. Can't be a college ID, can't be a library ID, can't be a medical card. It's got to be that type of approved ID. And then you show up in person and you vote. It is on paper. It is counted by hand. We've got to get all of our voting precincts. There's 175,000 of them. We've got to get them all back down to about 2,000 people per precinct. I'm a big proponent. It should be 1,000 per precinct. Then it's really manageable. It's counted at the precinct level, and then it's only verified upstream. That's the way to do it. You got to tell America we're going to have accurate results, but you're not going to get them on election night. That's just for TV, and that's promotion. And America's going to have to accept it. But in order to get blockchain or anything like that, it's got to go electronic to do it. And it has to be matched to a person to be able to come back. That's what law forbids. But again, I worry about the blockchain part of it. Now, part of it you heard say, well, they're going to be watermarks or currency. The scanners don't read that. They can't tell if it's the right paper or not. And so we can do it. We can do it right. But what really has to happen, other than paper ballots, one-day national vote holiday, a fixed time to count it. We're not going to get the results overnight, right?
Yes.
If we can do that, concurrent with the voter rolls are eliminated. You got to show up and show who you are and where you live, and you can vote. You don't have to be registered to vote. You just have to show up and vote and confirm who you are, and you can vote. Forget the registration shit.
Explain the voter rolls going away. Why is that important? Or how do we verify people then?
Well, right now we have on our voter rolls about 172 million people on our voter rolls. You think that they're real people. They're not. We had about 21 million bad known voters on our rolls that weren't really people. Then you had Biden administration open the floodgates and let in 11 million illegals. The first thing they tell those illegals to do is to go get your driver's license. Now, our government to these illegal gives them a social security number and then tells them to go get a driver's license. When they go down to the driver's license bureau, when they ask for ID, ostensibly you're a citizen, these people hand them a social security card. So that person assumes they're a citizen. That illegal takes a driving test, of course, in their native tongue instead of English, and they get a driver's license, and that's called motor voter. Yep. It's up to the illegal to say, well, I can't really vote. I'm an illegal, but it's this little bitty checkbox over here. Otherwise, you're automatically dropped in. So they immediately drop them in the voter rolls. Right now, we probably have 30 to 32 million bad ones of these on our voter roll. Now, when
how would we screen that person out in your scenario where they just show up election day and they present that driver's license?
Well, this is what President Trump said in the one EOs. We've got to make the immigration database talk to the DPS database, which could be done, and their names would come up. Okay. And it would show that they're illegal, and because they're trying to vote, that would immediately be the crime. But don't think it's not illegals voting. Look,
yeah, right.
These illegals come across the border and they're given an address, and they're going to get a voter ID. All of that is sent to one central address. I've seen addresses that have 30,000 people there.
Yes.
Well, those ballots go there. They don't disappear. They end up getting voted. That's how they do part of this.
Yeah.
And so that's what we have to do. We have to totally get rid of it. Totally get rid of it, because that's where the insurance policy and buildup is. You got to realize what they fight. When you look at the left, they tell you they're trying to get rid of mail-in ballots to make it harder to vote. They're trying to have ID, and that's just racist. They don't give a rat's ass if you get rid of the machines.
Right.
Because what are you going to do? If you hand count a ballot, how do you know if it came from an illegal or not? That's why it's got to be one-day voting, specifically on paper, with the right type of ID. But you got to make everybody in America feel it at the same time. Now, if you're in a hospital or can't get around, you'll have an exception. We'll get that done. But that can be done. But the voter roll's the rig.
That's
really where
good.
It is. It's the rig.
Why did we have to? Sometimes I feel like you're my own personal chat GPT. There is nothing I can throw at you that you don't know. So why did we have to get that real ID? What was that all about? They're mandating that now. If you're going to go fly, you got to get real ID. I had to go get one of those and went down to my DMV. It was like the ninth circle of hell being there for 2 hours.
First off, do you have a passport?
Yes, but it had expired and I didn't realize it.
Well, there you go. If you have a passport and you keep your passport current, you are not subject to having to get a real ID.
But what is it? What makes it different or special, or is it just another con?
That camera, when they took your picture, ported you into facial recognition.
Yeah.
And it's just like when you go to the airport now and you give them your driver's and they say, look in the camera, looks like they're checking the picture. No,
Yeah.
Number one, you don't have to do that by law. You can refuse it. All they're doing is face printing you. And so under the guise of real ID is basically how they're visually face printing as many as Americans as they can and getting people prepped to the point that you have a certain type of ID, which came with the pandemic, that you got to have a health card. And it's all this stuff trying to move us to a civilian credit score system. It's all part of crap.
But you always had to have your picture taken for the old ID.
It wasn't face printing. It's completely different. It's a new set of cameras, new set of data.
Really?
Not just taking your picture. It's plotting your face like a fingerprint.
Well, that makes sense, because in the past you would go stand against the wall and they'd take the picture with the camera. You got to stick your head in this box to get your real ID.
It's scanning you.
Yeah.
Every bit of you. It's all based on your biometrics. They are permanently capturing your biometrics.
Gosh, that just seems so unconstitutional.
Well, nobody really paid attention to it, and they all do it in the name of security and stuff. But again, it's a total scam.
I hate it.
Total scam. It's like, oh, well, here's your check or your card. You got to put your thumbprint here. No, you don't. Or you got to sign here. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Even when you're going through the airport right now, and they say, well, here for the camera, you can say, no, I'm not submitting to that. Look at my ID. Look at me.
Yes.
You are not required by law. You have the right to refuse it.
Yes, that's right. And you're right. I've done that, and it actually works pretty good. You just walk right through.
Here's the other trick. You know, all the people that downloaded the great, wonderful thing that would make you age 50 years or 100 years on your mobile phone.
All those Facebook things, viral Facebook stuff. Yeah.
All of that was for facial recognition for China. That's how they got all Americans, so many millions of Americans imported in.
Yes.
You gave them your facial recognition.
Yes.
When you did it.
Let me try one more curveball throw at you. See if you have any comments, and then we probably need to wrap. I have so much fun with this. I think it makes a good show, and we've got a lot of people watching. But I just have so much fun chatting with you, Jovan. I could do this all day. But
not a problem. Likewise.
Yeah. Well, let me throw one more at you, and then we'll probably wrap up. But another big thing happening right now, and I know, with all your tech background and patents, just kind of broad question, and I'll let you take it any direction you want, but your thoughts on crypto, Federal Reserve, digital dollar. I mean, there's a lot happening right now with all the, the Genius Act and the Market Structure Act, and crypto replacing, the Fed. Just open-ended, but any thoughts on any of that?
I'm very worried about the digital dollar. It's coming. And what you need to worry about the digital dollar coming, whether you're going to call it crypto, whether you're going to call it, digital banknotes, whatever, just think electronic. It's probably going to come with a downscale. Some people are saying you take what you have in the bank, and when they do this forced conversion, and by the way, we've been in a forced conversion in America before. Dollars have been shut off. Gold has been shut off. You were a criminal if you had gold. We've been through it before. Most people don't know their history. But I'm hearing that if they did this adjustment, you'll take your bank account and you'll lop off 32%. Now, you won't be able to do anything about it because that's just the new standard that it balances to.
Wow.
The issue I have with it is it's why the IRS moved to $600 transactions. It's why you had to wear a mask to go places. It's 100% about control.
Yes.
100%. And we're getting very close to the point that they will tell you can buy that, you can't buy that. You think cancel culture is bad? You wait till that gets in the hand of we have a uniparty. We don't have both parties, but you wait till it gets in the hands of wrong people and they want to force you to do things. And that's where it ultimately leads to what you can read, what you can't read, where you can go how you do it, etc. Even to the point that they can tell you, well, you're not going to be able to use your money for travel or whatever. Right now in Canada, it's happening right now.
Yeah.
That when you're trying to
you've taken too many plane flights this month. Sorry, you're cut off.
That's right.
Yep.
And now when you go to the bank and you want to pull out money, they ask you what it's for.
Yes.
And if they don't agree with you or think that's a reasonable expense, they don't even give you your own money.
Yes. True.
It's coming.
Yes. All right. Well, I lied. One more question then related to that.
No problem.
Again, from your tech background and your patents, the AI, I have so much fun using Grok and ChatGPT, and there's a level where it's great, but it seems that we are going to hit that moment of artificial general intelligence or artificial super intelligence. And, I'm not a Luddite. I like tech and I use it, and it's great. And you've got the whole control aspect of AI that I'm not even going there. I'm just going to the impact to society when all of these jobs get replaced. And, what do? We roll out universal basic income or what? How do you view that? And what could anyone be doing right now to make sure you're not just completely obsolete in a few months or a few years?
We used to have, in the technology world, Moore's Law, which was one of the original founders of Intel, that said, in 15 months, that not only is the technology obsolete, but it's half the price.
And it doubles, right? It
doubles. The speed doubles, and it gets half the price. That used to be the Matrix. I have never seen anything. It gives me chills going down my spine. So I've never seen anything evolve as fast as I've seen AI evolve.
Right.
And it's a wonderful tool. It's a brilliant tool, but all tools can be used for both good and bad. Where I worry about AI is in the rule set, because AI, you talked about getting banned on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Or something like that. AI can make these decisions before you well in advance. And it can really serve you a total line of crap in your own world based on a whole different predictive matrix. Now, it's not necessarily going to be as bad as you think, and it's going on right now. And folks, you can look this up. You think about, robots or AIs doing job. Yeah. Okay. In the advertising world, okay, you're going to have a problem in ad agencies because now AI did it. Well, a long time ago, we used to cut out the letters and paste them to the boards and shoot them through a photograph and wiggle them to make videos, right? We always go through this evolution stuff. You're just going to have to keep up with AI and learn what you can do with AI. If you're in the creative business, learn how to use it to your advantage. Right now, I'm watching some really exciting things go on, which comes down to AI. But even in the world of Caterpillar and dozers, land excavators and stuff, their machinery now can be remote, and you will train on a desktop and you will operate the machine, and you might be 1,000 miles across the continent, but you're digging pipelines and weldings and all kinds of stuff. It's not the replacement like you think. And it's not the replacement. It could, but we're not talking about what could be. We're talking about what would be. So yes, it's gonna make it really hard in the music industry, because now you can pick a topic and a genre and a type, and it'll whip something out for you. It basically is going to make music inauthentic. I think we're going to have markers in AI to know if it was AI created or not. If you know how to look at documents right now, I can tell you what was created AI or not. So we're going to have to go to that extent. But right now, what it's going to affect is the creative arts first, which it's done. Photographers are going to have a hard time. Creative designers, ad guys, copywriters, lyricists, etc. But I can also tell you on the other side, I have an ungodly amount of medical patents and have done a tremendous amount of research in the medical world. And I can tell you, I can submit, and I've been testing this, I can submit scenarios to AI where I already know the answer from a medical or research standpoint, and AI can be right bang on and nail it.
Yes.
And so what we're having is a quantum leap in development which means, and it's a process I'm going through myself. You can create your own AI agent, and it can read, it can listen to every broadcast you've ever done. It can read, I have some, I don't know if it's either 7 or 9 million pages of published work out there.
Wow.
So that I've got thousands of hours of content behind my training and patents and hundreds of books or whatever. It can take all of that and ingest it in.
Yep.
And learn how you speak and what is your syntax to think. And I could technically teach it to beat me to my next patent breakthrough, but it can just do it faster for me. It's amazing, but you have to understand how to use it. You have to understand what you can use. Right now, if you ask AI just a generic question, because it's still biased about me, it's going to give you a generic bullshit crap it took from websites. You can call out AI and say, look, I don't want you to be a glorified search engine. I want you to get me, first tier stuff, not blogs and crap. And boom, you'll find, all the stuff I've ever done. And so it can be good or bad. It's going to be, who are the handlers? I'm all for having right handlers in it, but it's going to change us for the better in the medicine world.
Yes.
There's going to be revolts happen over the pharmaceutical industry and stuff when you find out what it really does and how it really whacks you. I think it may push people back to a naturopathic life. It may save us when it comes to growing crops and getting back to the things we should do and getting away from GMO. So I see it as a double-edged sword. I'm just worried about who's going to lord over it and how is that going to be done.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Because it's one thing right now. People say, "Well, thank goodness Elon started, his Grok and XAI," and yeah, that's great. But what happens when he's gone? I mean, he's he's going to die
right.
at some point, and then you've got this mega company that someone else is going to take over.
If I was the president, I would put together a true think tank to embrace it right. But I do see President Trump doing that, and I'll give you a little inside information. Most people don't realize that Greenland is ice and Iceland is green.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so when you see President Trump says Greenland should become part of the states, you're seeing a very sophisticated move. The sophisticated move you're seeing is frigid, cold ocean water, frigid, cold environment. And that's where the data centers should be, because it takes a tremendous amount of energy, computing power, and they heat up. It's about cooling before it's about energy. And I think that's the play for Greenland. So I know it's in his playbook. He's been prepped carefully. And if in fact we can get that type of thing done with Greenland, then what you will find is where I think it should be. America should lead in AI and be the de facto leader like we used to have for the internet, which in fact Americans created when we had network solutions and everything. So the writing on the wall, people are thinking about it, but it's going to be a battle.
Of course, America created it. Al Gore did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jovan, this has been just a blast. I want to thank everyone who's been joining us. We've got a lot of people on all three platforms, and the numbers just keep going up. So I think people are joining late and watching this. I hope everybody really enjoyed this as much as I did. I have so much fun on these. We let it go far too long, Jovan. So I'd love to have you back on again in the future. And I always love chatting with you. Thank you for being so generous with your time. We've been live over 2 hours on a Saturday, and I just greatly appreciate that.
No problem. Anytime. Thank you, my friend.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll I'll put the link below. Let me flash it on the screen one more time. If you can help support, I know Jovan, I've talked to him over the years. He has spent millions of his own dollars preserving this evidence and doing incredible work. If you want to crowdsource that and help out, go to givesendgo.com/SaveTheEvidence2020. I'll put the link below. You can click on it. We'll blast that out there. Help us share it on social media. And we don't want this stuff to get lost. So we'll do our part, Jovan. Hopefully we can see that number go up, and look forward to chatting with you again. Thanks, everybody.